Good morning, everyone. Well, it's Monday for us, it might not be Monday for you. We have a pretty special guest. We have the Rolex Hulk. I've been waiting for this one for so long, so let's get to it. This is the Rolex Submariner 116610LV, or more commonly known as the Hulk. It is a 2011 edition. These are discontinued now. So let's get to the specs, because this model is awesome. Welcome back to Time on the Wrist at Chisholm Hunter. My name is Harrison, as always, and we have finally got the Rolex Submariner Hulk in. So let's start with the specs. This comes at 40mm in diameter, which is actually quite small for a sports watch. But on that note, I prefer small watches. I have 6.5-inch wrists, so small watches actually fit that little bit better on my wrist. It doesn't make it any less readable. There's still quite a lot of dial real estate, even though they have that bezel. But let's move on to the thickness. This watch comes in, according to our digital calipers, at 12.5mm in thickness, maybe just over 12.5mm in thickness, and that's thin. That is a very thin watch for being able to go to 300 meters of water resistance and being a diving model. And I like thinner watches. I do. I like watches that sit that little bit closer to the wrist because I tend to knock my watches about. And when it sits that little bit closer, you are less likely to knock it about. And these specs are so pleasant, in fact, that this has become one of the most popular watches in the world, if not the most popular watch. It's extremely hard to find now. Everybody wants a Rolex Submariner, never mind the Hulk version. So when we stumbled across that today, we were very excited, to say the least. If you want to buy or sell your watch, or take a look at Chisholm Hunter's pre-owned collection, then make sure you head to chisholmhunter.co.uk, link below. The case and the bracelet come in stainless steel, and the case itself has a combination of polished and brushed steel. So it actually has polished on the sides, here, and then brush on the front. Now this is very smart because the brushed steel seems to wrap round into the bracelet really seamlessly, because the bracelet is also brushed steel with polished on the side. So everything kind of wraps around your wrist. Whoa. We actually have a really exciting announcement. We need to pause the video. We are giving you the chance to win one of 3 Tissot goodie bags, which are all cycling orientated, hence why I'm dressed like this. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel and comment with your favorite Tissot model. 3, 2, 1, go. The clasp is actually a safety clasp with a deployant clasp just here, which is really nice. It also has the iconic Rolex symbol just in here, and it sports micro adjustments in the clasp here for divers. So you can adjust it to your wrist, big or small, which is actually really useful to me, because when I normally take links out of watches, having slimmer wrists, they normally sag a little bit, but when I have that sort of closer fit, if you will, with that micro adjustment sort of level, it sits a little bit tighter and a little bit more compact. The bracelet actually tapers in quite gradually. It's not an aggressive taper in, and I actually don't mind this. I don't normally like tapered bracelets, but this works for this model. The crown on this model is actually a lot more prominent than my Omega crown. It's a lot thicker and a lot sort of more stubby, shall we say. So my Omega crown Seamaster is a little bit longer, but a lot thinner, whereas this is a little bit stubbier, but a lot thicker. And then the crown guards are actually a lot more aggressive than my Omega Seamaster, I would say, and kind of slope up really quickly instead of that gradual slope that you can see on my Seamaster here. I'm actually not sure what I prefer. I think that it's probably easier to turn on the Rolex, but I don't like the fact that the crown guards slope up that aggressively. I would rather them sloping up kind of gradually and sort of feeding into the crown instead of just being a massive incline. But I suppose it's personal preference. Now we move on to the bezel and the face of this watch, which is by far one of the most attractive features to most watch lovers. Now this is very much a personal preference kind of thing. If you want to have something subtle, something understated, then I would go with the black. But if you want to make a statement, I'd go with the green. Moving quickly on to the bezel and the face of this model, which are by far some of the most attractive features in my personal opinion. The bezel is of course ceramic and is green. It's that beautiful dark green that we know and love from Rolex. The numerals are very prominent and they're almost white in color. Now the dot of the lume at the 12 o'clock mark on the bezel is actually raised off of the bezel, and being a fully functional diver, it has that dot of lume. I like this design, but I prefer it when the dot of lume is actually integrated into the bezel instead of being raised. And the reason I prefer that is because I do have a Tudor black bay sitting at home, and I did knock the little crystal of lume out by accident. I'm just a very clumsy person, and that's why I prefer it when it's kind of integrated into that bezel. The face of this model, of course, comes in that beautiful dark green with a sunray pattern running through it. So when you move it in the light, you can see that sort of disc moving around in it, and it's going lighter or darker shades of green. This dial is absolutely beautiful. I'm a huge fan of the simplicity of Rolexes, the simplicity of telling the time and being highly readable, but also highly functional watches. But what I'm not as big a fan of is the magnification window at the 3 o'clock mark over the date. I've just never been into Cyclops eyes, that's what we call them here in the watch industry. It's just never been a preference of mine. I do wish they'd remove that Cyclops eye and also move the date window to 6 o'clock. That would look absolutely beautiful. The hands and the indices are highly polished and reflect the light wonderfully against that dial. Because they're so highly polished, they actually stand out that little bit more, even when it's in low light. And I actually did look at the lume. I cheated in the low light, so I know that those hands and indices are very prominent. The indices actually have super luminova, and as do the hands, and as does the bezel. It has that little dot on the bezel. The super luminova is brilliant. So let's take a look at it. As you can see here, the lume shines extremely bright. It's actually quite bright in this room at the moment, but you can still see that prominent blue color feeding through. And I actually like the fact that it's blue instead of green. Moving on to the weight of this Rolex Submariner, and remember, it has the full bracelet, so it should be quite heavy. It does feel quite heavy in the wrist. For a smaller watch coming in at 40mm, it comes in at 153 grams. So it is quite a hefty watch, but then it does have lots of stainless steel because of that bracelet. Before we move on to the beautiful movement, it's important to say that out of the people watching this video, 93% of you haven't subscribed. If you could subscribe and join the Chisholm Hunter watch community, it would be much appreciated. We upload twice a week, every week, so if you enjoy a certain watch or want a review on a certain watch, the odds are it's coming to the channel. So if you could hit that subscribe button right now, it would be much appreciated. Within this movement is Rolex's in-house caliber 3135. This is a pretty incredible movement. It beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH and has Rolex's exclusive parachrome blue anti-magnetic hairspring. It has a free sprung balance and full balance bridge to maintain precision in the face of extreme conditions. More than a tough movement though, the Cal 3135 is timed to COSC chronometer standards twice. Firstly at the COSC lab, and secondly at Rolex's lab after being cased. This model sells for between 22 to 32,000 pounds on the pre-owned market. That's depending if it has box and papers and all the rest of it. At Chisholm Hunter, we are authorized pre-owned retailers, and we do have the box and papers for this piece. Of course, it is extremely rare. This is the first time I've seen one in person in almost 3 years, so it very rarely comes in. That's why I was so excited about it. I'm a huge fan of Rolex. I think that they revolutionized the industry in a lot of ways, and they are responsible for getting a lot of people into the watch industry. And that's all from me. So thank you so much for watching. My name's Harrison. As always, this has been a Chisholm Hunter Time on the Wrist episode. If you want to hit that subscribe button and join the Chisholm Hunter family, it'd be much appreciated.